Welcome back. Whether we'd like to admit it or not, we all need money to survive. But how many of us can say that we know how to effectively manage our money so that we can save enough, give enough, and spend enough? Today, we have on our show co-founders and co-hosts of Rizqwise, Ahmad, Munawar, and Saeed Ali. Saeed Ali is a certified financial planner. He helps clients engineer financial plans to achieve their goals. Ahmad Munawar is a chartered accountant and currently runs a marketing agency for professional services and consulting firms. Let's sit down and find out exactly how Rizqwise helps them achieve their mission of helping Muslims make smarter financial decisions. So Saeed, Ahmad, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, it's a great pleasure to be here.
We're very excited. So I think we're talking about money today. So your organization, or show rather, it's called Rizqwise. And online, when I did some Google searches, it says your tagline is take control of your money. So how does a podcast show help people do that?
I know, it's kind of a strange tagline, take control of your money.
It sounds very powerful.
It assumes that you don't actually have control of your money right now, which is kind of strange. I mean, if you don't have control over your money, then who does? But I think it's resonated with a lot of people, and we thought that it was interesting because most people, when it comes to their finances, Muslim or not, this is not a specific thing to any religious group, most people live their life on what we call unintentional autopilot, where we don't actually make conscious decisions about how we spend money. And in the first few shows we give some illustrations as to why that is possible. I mean, spending today, taking money out of your wallet is non-existent. Nobody actually goes into their wallet and pulls out bills anymore. It's just
very rarely.
Right. It's just a credit card tap. Now we're getting rid of credit cards and debit cards. We're just going to a phone, because if you forget your wallet, nobody forgets their phone, and you can pay using your phone alone. So spending is becoming so much easier. And we talk about Amazon and one-click buy. You like something, you click one button, and it's been purchased and it's on its way to your place. Literally one click. Spending is a lot easier, and people are not making conscious decisions about what they really want out of life, what they really want to be spending their money on.
What do you guys mean by not making conscious decisions?
See, I think when we say take control of your money, what we're really saying is take control of your life.
Right.
Because the truth is, if you think about all the major decisions you make in life, right? And make a list, where you go to school, what kind of job you get, where you live,
your major,
etc., right? When you have kids, all these things. If you think about each of them, you'd be hard pressed to find a single major life decision that does not involve money. I can guarantee you every single one of those decisions has a financial component.
Right.
And the problem is when you let the money you have, or the money you earn, or your relationship with money drive those decisions.
Or the money that you have left after being pseudo-irresponsible with it, letting the money that you have left dictate what your life is going to be like, which is the majority for everybody. I mean, we can only make decisions based on how much we can afford to do something. And the word afford is a very, very interesting word. But taking control of your money is the first step that we talk about, is defining what it is that's important to you, which most people don't do. What is it that actually motivates you, drives you, that you want to be doing in your life? That's not a question that's very often asked or answered. And like Ahmed was saying, you think about all the major decisions. When you leave school, enter into the first job, you get used to a paycheck, a certain stream of income comes in, a certain habit of spending starts, and then 40 years later, you wake up and you're 60. I mean, without ever coming out of that autopilot and taking a step back and saying, do I need to be spending my money on this? Really?
So let me ask you guys, from the brief conversation that we've had so far, it seems like this is not really, and I think Saeed, you actually mentioned that this is not something that's specific to Muslims. This is something I think that anybody can relate to. But you guys do promote yourselves as a show that's providing Muslims with smarter financial decisions. So what is the perspective here that you're bringing for the Muslim population?
Good question.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. When we started the show, the idea was really that there was nothing out there that spoke to the needs of Muslims, right? Saeed and I were both, we're still young Muslims, right, relatively.
We all like to think that.
But we were younger at one point, and we went through a lot of the questions that arise to young Muslims, right? You go to school, You get a job, you start earning money, you get married, you have children. We've all been through, Saeed and I have been through those milestones, and questions arise, right?
Like what? Give us some examples for viewers who may not be Muslim and might be wondering.
Well, I mean, these questions arise to everybody, right? Things like, how much do I need to save, right? How do I set a budget?
How do I pay off my student loans? How do I make sure I don't have money on my credit card at the end of the month? How do I, if I have $500 or $1,000 on my credit card that I'm not paying off at the end of every month, how do I do that? How do I get out of the cycle of debt and increasing debt? You know, sometimes people think that it's impossible to have credit card balances. Well, there are probably people who have never had them, but once you have a credit card balance you can't pay off at the end of 1 month, it's very easy to not pay it off at the end of the second month. It's even easier to pay it off, not pay it off at the end of the third month, and by then it is now something you're accustomed to, always carrying a balance on your credit card at 30%, and increasing how much is on that credit card. Anybody who has emailed us and asked us questions, the vast majority of the questions that we've gotten have to do with debt, and of the debt subset of questions, it's, I have credit card debt, I'm going out of my mind.
So you guys think in your experiences that's been a gap in the Muslim community in terms of dealing with finances and how to deal with that in a proper way?
I mean, I think it's a gap in every community, to be honest, right? And there's a broader conversation happening around financial literacy and how we don't teach kids in schools how to handle money, how to manage money, how to have a relationship with money, what to do with it. You don't learn that. I didn't learn that in school. You probably didn't learn it in school.
No,
None of us did, right?
Yeah.
The only personal finance course that I have ever seen in any school setting has been at the MBA level. And it was an optional elective that is taught by somebody that I know. And that's the first time that in an academic setting, people would be taught personal finance. And it's
if someone even chooses to go that route, right?
Right. An MBA and an elective within the MBA. So the probability of people actually attending that course is pretty low. So the vast majority of people, they will graduate school, whether it's high school, university, or college, start earning money and have no clue what to do with it. And that's one of the most common questions I get professionally is, what do I do with my money? It's that broad.
So let's build a little bit on that. I know you guys on your website, you also have Ask a Question. So what kinds of questions do people email you guys with?
I mean, all over the place, right? So we try to cover the broad spectrum
Right.
of topics within the personal finance genre. So things like, you know, from the very beginning, right? And this is where our conversation becomes more applied to the Muslim audience, right? Is why do we earn money? Why do we have money, right? What are we supposed to do with it? And from a personal standpoint, your intention in earning and spending money goes a long way, because we're taught by the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings upon him, that actions are judged by their intentions, right? So the very mundane task of earning and spending money on your family and paying your rent or for your housing and buying food, all of those things can be virtuous deeds that are actually counted as rewards with the right intention. So we start really from there, from the ground floor, all the way to how do you save, how do you build a budget, the nuts and bolts of that, you know, the mechanics of that, because you can say have a budget, right? And it's important to budget, but how do you actually do it? We actually teach people how to do it.
In a way, and that's actually, I think, one of our better episodes where we, Ahmad and I vehemently disagree with one another on the concept of budgeting, first and foremost, and then therefore how to do it. And it's a topic that anybody in personal finance would say this is something that you need to do. You need to be building a budget, absolutely, but nobody does it.
That's true. I mean, I tried once and I gave up on it.
It's tedious, it's boring, and if it doesn't change behavior, then it's useless. So we address that the budget is just a mechanism to change behavior, and if it's not changing behavior, it's not changing spending habits, why are we tracking it? And we compare it to a Fitbit, that, you know, those watches that people have that count their steps and how many calories they burn. If, you know, Fitbit's model is that you should be taking 10,000 steps a day. So if you're wearing that watch and you're still only taking 1,000 steps or less a day, and you've worn it for 3 months, and then you think, oh man, I've had this thing for 3 months, I haven't lost any weight. Well, what was it supposed to do for you?
Exactly.
On the other hand, if you wear it for a few months and you realize that to get to 10,000, it's about an hour's worth of walking, hour and a half worth of walking, and you've just created that as your habit, that you do it, you know, in the afternoon as a little break from work, you do it in the morning, whatever, and you just create that habit that I know I need to spend an hour a day walking. And then 3 months later, you realize, well, I don't need this anymore because I've built the habit of walking 10,000 steps. Well, then the Fitbit has accomplished its goal, and a budget is like that. Not everybody needs to keep a budget forever. but I think everybody needs to start knowing what their baseline spending is. That's where we'll agree. From that point, we just do whatever it requires. I think my recommendation is that you do whatever is required to change your behavior. And there's 3 different budgeting systems that we talk about on the show. And depending on what your level of compliance, how you actually want to do this, because it's got to be something you're going to do. If we're going to tell you, yeah, if you're going to build a 10-page spreadsheet that takes you 15 minutes a day to fill in, nobody's going to do it.
So how successful are you guys finding Rizqwise in terms of helping people make smarter financial decisions?
I'm not sure how we really gauge or measure success, but I can tell you that we have a lot of listeners who seem to be benefiting from the show. And I think we gauge success by the amount of questions that we get from the type of people that are asking questions. I think what we're finding is that there's a lot of young Muslims who are really, really getting a lot out of the show. And I can see why, if I was in their position at that age, when you're really starting to form your relationship with money, you just graduated, you've got a job, maybe you have a young family, and this is really where you're forming that relationship. They're finding value in the show at that stage in their lives. Yeah,
because it's the building blocks that everybody should know but doesn't. And unfortunately, we don't know these things. It's not taught in school, so the earlier we get this into people's heads, the better. And we decided on podcasting as the mechanism of delivery because it's a newer kind of media. A lot of younger people are listening to podcasts as opposed to, a TV show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people watch TV.
Well,
too.
People watch our show, so
But the demographic that we're looking at. I mean, if we were creating a show that was for older people who are in their 60s plus, we wouldn't at all choose the methodology of podcasting at all.
But it's interesting, I think, because for the average Muslim, but particularly young Muslim, right? It's like you have to do certain things in life, right? You have to get a job, you've got to work, you've got to have a family. I mean, there's certain expectations, right? You don't have to.
That you have to live up to, yes.
But these are certain expectations, right? And that path is pretty clear. Often it's dictated by societal standards, family expectations, whatever it may be. You've got to do certain things, and it looks a little bit different for individuals. And then at the same time, you have religious expectations, right? We hear on the Membar, we hear in religious talks, we hear on shows like Let the Quran Speak that, we have to live a simple life, that we have to preserve our wealth, that we have to give charity, we have to go for Hajj, we have to do all these things, right? But how do you do all of it?
Perfect. And if people want to go and sort of, start listening to your show, where can they check that out?
On our website, Rizqwise, RIZQWISE.com. That's where you sign up to the emails. You'll be getting an email once a week. That's our current publishing schedule from Ahmad, who's actually one of the few compliments I pay Ahmad is that he's actually very good at writing these emails that summarize the lessons very well. And if you're new to listening to the podcast, my recommendation would be if you subscribe to it on iTunes, leave us a review, but if you subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcasting app on Android or whatever, start from the oldest episodes and go forward in time from there, because we did take some time in the first 20 episodes to build a structure from understanding how money works to forming your personal intention in how you are going to handle money, to developing goals and a goal system, to budgeting, to saving, and all the way through.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming on, and we'll have you guys on next week to go more into one of your topics. So thanks so much.
Looking forward to it.
Hey YouTube, we hope you benefited from this video. If you liked it, or if you didn't, let us know in the comments below. And if you're interested in learning more, check out some of our other videos. And don't forget to subscribe so you can get new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.